All right, so Democratic House member from California, Katie Porter, recently announced that she is going to be launching a bid for a Senate seat in the state of California. So I got her announcement here on Twitter with a little campaign advertisement video that she put together. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this, and then I'm going to tell you guys some of the complicating factors that have already come up in terms of who she might be facing in a Democratic primary and what this is going to look like. So let's just go ahead and get into this here. She says California needs a warrior in the Senate to stand up to special interests, fight the dangerous imbalance in our economy, and hold so-called leaders like Mitch McConnell accountable for rigging our democracy. Today, I'm proud to announce my candidacy for the U.S. Senate in 2024, and obviously what she's referencing up here, which I've covered so many different times on this channel, she's sort of famous for these whiteboard takedowns where, you know, she busts out the whiteboard and just breaks things down in a very simple way that I think any American could understand, and does the math in real time and confronts a lot of these corporate interests that are corrupting our politics, or like pharmaceutical companies or health insurance companies that are ripping off the American people. And just all around, she's pretty decent or good when it comes to actually tackling or actually going head to head with a lot of the power centers within our country. So I think that she's could be a good Senate candidate. But let's just go ahead and check out this advertisement that she put out a couple days ago.
We're living through a time of extraordinary change. I'm Katie Porter. Change can be electrifying and exhilarating, but change can also be disruptive, like the constant assault on our democracy and the dangerous imbalance in our economy. The threat from so-called leaders like Mitch McConnell has too often made the United States Senate the place where rights get revoked, special interests get rewarded, and our democracy gets rigged. Especially in times like these, California needs a warrior in Washington. That's exactly why I'm announcing my candidacy for the United States Senate in 2024. I don't do Congress the way others often do. I use whatever power I have to speak hard truths to the powers that be, to not just challenge the status quo, but call it out, name names, and demand justice. That goes for taking on Wall Street and the big banks, big oil, and big pharma. It's why I refuse to accept corporate PAC and lobbyist campaign money. I don't want it. And I'm leading the fight to ban congressional stock trading because it's just wrong. To win these fights, it's time for new leadership in the U.S. Senate. If you agree, please go to katieporter.com and join my campaign for the U.S. Senate today. Thank you for caring about the California we can build together.
Okay, so there you go, pretty decent advertisement. She's just talking about, the various different things that she does and challenging corporate power and big oil and the pharmaceutical giants and all of that good stuff. I do think that Katie Porter has a decent amount of actual crossover appeal with some independents and maybe even right-leaning people, just because, she has these clips that constantly go viral where she is directly going at and going head to head with a lot of these wealthy, corrupted, special interests or, these private corporations that are screwing the American people every day. So I think a lot of people across the country, regardless of political affiliation, could appreciate some of the things that Katie Porter does, and she has a decent policy record as well. So, honestly, I do think, especially compared to who is currently in this seat, Dianne Feinstein, that, Katie Porter would be definitely a significant improvement on that front. But again, as I was just pointing out, we do have a little bit of a blockade in the way, or a challenger, depending on how you want to view this. So here from Politico, this just dropped today. They say Barbara Lee tells lawmakers that she is running for the Senate. So she's basically coming out just a couple days after Katie Porter, and at least behind closed doors, insinuating that she is going to be running for the same exact Senate seat, right? So, I mean, this could obviously get interesting. Barbara Lee has had many base takes, especially when it comes to specific matters on foreign policy, like Afghanistan. She has had some pretty base takes throughout her days, but at the same time, is there too much of a massive difference between Barbara Lee and Katie Porter in terms of what legislation you're actually going to get passed with each of them in that position? I don't think there's some huge gulf between them on that front. And then at the the same time as that, Barbara Lee is getting up there in age. Obviously, she's 76 years old right now. By the time that she would take this position, I think in 2024 she would be getting up to almost 80 years old. So she is definitely getting up there in age. Now, that's not necessarily a disqualifying denying factor by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, you have people like Bernie Sanders who are still like 100% cognizant, but that kind of ties into, another aspect of this story, which I think is kind of ridiculous in terms of Dianne Feinstein either staying in this position potentially or running for re-election, which is still somewhat up in the air for pretty insane reasons. But you have a bunch of outlets like here The View was scolding Katie Porter. They were saying basically that she announced this early because Dianne Feinstein hasn't come out and officially said that she's going to be done after this term. Now, Feinstein it's Feinstein or Feinstein. I get different comments of people telling me how to pronounce it, but whatever. I'm just going to go with Feinstein for now. Okay, she is getting up there in age. Would I say she's getting up there in age? She is like 89 years old, pushing 90 right now, and it's not even just her age. Again, there are some examples of people who get up there in age and they're perfectly cognizant and fine and able to do the job. It's not about the age itself, but specifically with Dianne Feinstein, the reason I find these types of critiques so completely ridiculous is that, like, even according to people who are in the inner circles surrounding Dianne, okay, they're coming out and have openly for months now been saying that there are issues here that probably should be addressed. And it's not as if, like, we're trying to be like mean to her or anything like that, but it definitely seems like behind the scenes, or even in public in many instances, she has been seriously suffering with some of her cognitive functioning, specifically centering around her memory. So here from Vanity Fair, they say, report, California Senator Dianne Feinstein's memory is rapidly deteriorating. And again, this is testimony from people who work alongside her on a regular basis. Also here from the San Francisco Gate, they say Dianne Feinstein's mental capabilities are getting worse, says an unnamed Democratic senator. Okay, so this is coming from a senator. And they say, among the concerning exchanges, one unnamed California member of Congress who had known the longtime political titan for at least 15 years had to reintroduce themselves to her multiple times during an hours-long conversation. Compared to a few years ago, this member of Congress told the Chronicle that Feinstein lacked the detail-oriented and commanding presence that she once was known for around the Capitol. She was an intellectual and political force not that long ago, and that's why my encounter with her was so jarring, because there was just no trace of that. So obviously she is deteriorating pretty significantly and has been over the last couple of years. But they say another Democratic senator put it bluntly, it's bad and it's getting worse, they said. And they also say that they spoke with 4 anonymous senators who expressed concerns over her mental state. So, I mean, listen, obviously there's something there. She's damn near 90 years old. I just don't get it at this point, honestly. Same thing goes with, like, Nancy Pelosi. Obviously, she just stepped down from the top leadership position within the Democratic House. But at the same time, like, why do you feel the need to even work? Like, you don't need the money. You don't need any more, like, political clout or anything like that. You could just go retire and, like, hang out on a beach for the rest of your life, and you would be perfectly fine. Like, you've already made your money. You've already done what you needed to do. Why do you feel the need to, like, push this until you're literally on your deathbed in order to actually step down and allow somebody else to take this seat? So I think, like, this critique that's coming from a good amount of people right now about how this was, like, ill-timed from Katie Porter and she's stepping on Dianne Feinstein's toes or something, it's completely fucking ridiculous. Now, again, she's going to have some challengers like Barbara Lee. I think that would be an interesting matchup, but honestly, I would rather have Katie Porter for the reasons I outlined at the beginning of this video, as well as just the fact that she, I think, is, would be a better Democratic senator in terms of being more vocal and pushing the Overton window slightly to the left when it comes to a lot of the issues that we care about and a lot of the policies that we want to get passed. So I think that Katie Porter would be my preferred candidate personally over Barbara Lee, but that might not be the only one. You could also have people like Ro Khanna throwing their hat in the ring and maybe running for the same Senate seat. So it's definitely going to be heating up with candidates who I definitely don't agree with 100% of the time, but still have some pretty good takes, and honestly would be a massive step up from the current representation of damn near 1,000-year-old Dianne Feinstein, who was just a complete neoliberal through and through. But I just want to leave you guys off here with a clip that was pointed out by David Dole, the Rational National, which is from about close to a year ago now at this point, but it's essentially one of these famous whiteboard takedowns that Katie Porter is known for, and I think this is probably one of the best ones that she's ever done. So I just wanted to leave you guys off with this clip here real quick so you can get a sense of why I think that having somebody like this in the Senate would actually push the needle at least marginally in the right direction for us.
Dr. Collins, what percentage of revenue do private insurance companies spend on administrative costs?
Between about 17 to 18% of spending in private insurance plans.
So if I pay my insurance company $100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, $17 go to administrative costs. What about Medicare? What do they spend on administrative costs?
That range is about 3 to 5%.
3 to 5%. About 3 to 5%, right here. And if we look at just billing costs, just billing and insurance costs, Medicare is at 1%. Wait, private companies spend 17 times more on administrative costs than Medicare. What are private insurance companies spending on that Medicare is not? Does Medicare spend hundreds of millions of dollars on television advertisements like private insurance does? Dr. Collins?
No.
Does Medicare spend millions of dollars on stock buybacks to shareholders?
No.
Does Medicare spend money on marketing? Private insurance likes to put its name on stadiums and PGA tournaments. Is there a Medicare arena?
No.
Does Medicare spend $23 million on executive pay like private insurance companies do?
No.
We know how much it costs to run a high-quality health insurance program. $1. Out of $100, research shows that Medicare spends 1.1% on administrative costs. We spend $4 trillion on healthcare every year. We could save $200 billion on administrative costs with Medicare for All. And those savings, they could go to expand Medicare. We could spend that money to let patients see dentists. We could spend that money to let patients pay for hearing aids, to help older adults afford eyeglasses, to bring down the cost of prescription drugs, to finally pay mental health professionals for the work they do. Instead, all this money is wasted. We're not talking about paying to keep the lights on in operating rooms or improving the quality of care. All this money is used to pay big insurance to push paper. It's death by 200 billion paper cuts. Now, administrative costs waste money, but they also waste healthcare workers' time. A recent study found that a majority of doctors, 56%, support a single-payer healthcare program. Why? Because today doctors spend only 1/4 of their time with patients. What are they doing with the rest of their time? Paperwork.
Everyone is saying good Politic guy has the best Politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying